Beast of Reincarnation just came out, and the game is already splitting people down the middle. Some are calling it one of the best surprises of the year, and I see others calling it a rough, unfinished mess. And honestly, both sides have a point, and that's exactly why you should watch this before you buy. So very quickly, the housekeeping. What is this game about? It's a single-player action RPG from Game Freak. Yes, the studio behind Pokemon. You play as Emma, infected with something called the Blight, and it all takes place in a post-apocalyptic version of Japan. Emma travels with her infected dog Koo, and the two of them hunt down powerful regional beasts called Nushi. Beating a Nushi does more than clear the area. You absorb its blight, and along with that you can absorb its memories and powers as well, which then get folded into your skill set. Combat is where the game mostly earns its keep. That is, if you enjoy a parry and stagger heavy system. Parrying is the real engine behind everything, since every successful one fills a meter called FP, and FP is what lets you do the cool shit. When you open your companion's command menu, then time slows way down, and you have time to pick a move. For example, binding an enemy, interrupting an attack, healing you a little. When this stuff clicks, it feels like satisfying teamwork. It thankfully doesn't feel like babysitting an AI companion. The catch is of course that constantly pausing to open that menu chops up the pace of a fight. The good news is you're not locked into one playstyle. You get bows and crossbows with elemental and status ammo, and a build that leans into ranged damage can really carry whole fights from a distance. There's room for status effect builds, stealth approaches, aggressive blade art spam, or leaning almost entirely on cruise commands. The game also has a story mode that loosens the parry timing, so if you do like the idea of parry combat but Sekiro level punishment scares you off, then there's still an actual door for you here, and normal and hard exist, if you want the harder version. The game also has New Game Plus that adds an even tougher difficulty. Then there's Emma's plant hair ability, easily the most original idea in the game. It lets her build temporary bridges across gaps, launch herself upward, grapple to ledges, close the distance in combat, and pull off some damn cool aerial attacks. You can even grow some cover to hide behind. It opens up way more vertical movement, and makes exploring feel less like a straight line. Now the problem is, the levels don't always keep up with this. You will hit invisible walls, or spots that look climbable, but are not. And the very dense vegetation sometimes makes it really hard to tell what's a solid ground and what isn't. So you kinda get this really cool toolkit that is occasionally, well, not even that occasionally to be honest, fighting against the environment it's supposed to work in. But let's take a look at the progression. No game is perfect of course, but is this part fun? Their progression runs through skill trees, and Emma and Koo pull from one shared pool of points, so leveling one holds the other back, which forces you to actually pick a lane, instead of maxing everything eventually. You will also collect katanas, charms for Koo, gear, and spirit stones with conditional effects, though the swords mostly shift stats and passives, rather than really substantially changing how a fight feels. So don't expect huge moveset differences between them. Cosmetically there's a little bit here, like changing Emma's hat, but nothing close to a real outfit system. So if you care about extensively visually customizing your character, don't expect too much here. Campsites are everywhere, and work as your checkpoints, save points and shops all in one. You rest, level up, buy skills, craft, and restock ammo there. Dying doesn't cost you your inventory or your resources. So this is nowhere near as punishing as a Souls game, which is great if that stuff isn't your thing. But many people, myself included, often found this game a bit too easy. Death rarely feels like a real setback. Between the missions you've got a mobile home base called the Clanswalker. This is where you can cook, grow ingredients, craft and upgrade gear, research new abilities, and build affinity with Koo through things like feeding or petting him. Now the game has some aspects where it really struggles. For starters, if you have seen other reviews, then you probably already heard this, but the enemy variety is very thin. Regular enemies start repeating early, and later versions are mostly just stronger reskins, with a rather small pool of attacks. Several major bosses come back in the second half, without much change about how they fight, so those rematches lose their punch fast, and one boss in particular shows up 3 separate times. The world looks great aesthetically, with a real contrast between overgrown nature and the old technology, and the whole thing has a rather quiet, melancholic mood behind it, backed by some really decent sound design. But a lot of areas follow the same loop of enter, clear camps, grab loot, beat the boss, and once you notice the formula, lots of this space starts feeling emptier than it looks. The combat polish can be a bit inconsistent too. Some fights feel really good, very fast and responsive. Others feel more floaty, with imprecise hitboxes and camera problems. Story-wise, the ideas underneath are genuinely interesting, dealing with grief, memory, and what it means to feel nothing. Their delivery is slow though. Big reveals get held back for a long time. time. Some explanations only come through long stretches of dialogue, and Emma has a very flat, emotionless way of talking. It is intentional, but that doesn't automatically make every conversation land. On PC specifically, don't expect much polish outside of combat, no ultra-wide support, no field of view slider, at least based on my knowledge, small subtitles with no size option, and the performance swings quite a bit, so who can enjoy this game? I wouldn't buy this game at its current price, definitely wait for a sale, and once it's on sale, if you do like parry combat without Sekiro's level of punishment, or you're into the slower, melancholic mood of something like Nier, then this is worth trying. It is also on Game Pass at launch, if you do expect tight combat polish, real enemy variety, and a world that doesn't repeat itself, then I'm afraid that's not that game.